No, I don't want you.
You good, Mariano?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and call meeting to order. You do roll call, Shelley?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. District 1, Councilman Rios is excused. District 2, Councilman Pastor.
Present.
District 3, Councilman Leatham is excused. Vice Mayor Stapleton, District 4.
Here.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley is excused. Mayor Gameros,
Here.
we do have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank
Could you lead us in the invocation,
Thank you,
Shelley?
Mr. Mayor. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and your many blessings. We ask that you be with each person attending tonight and bless the families that they represent. Lord, we ask that you be with the members who are not here and bless them with peace and protection. Heavenly Father, thank you for the guidance you give, and we pray for endurance to continue and complete the decisions made for the betterment of this community. We ask these things in your name, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Mariano, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start with summary of current events. Mariano, we'll start with you down there.
It's been a busy weekend for me, Mr. Mayor. Just to comment, Saturday night there was a fundraiser out at the fairgrounds, and I bought a raffle ticket, and I won an engraved .22 rifle.
Oh, nice.
And anybody interested in buying one, let me know, because I want a shotgun so I can do skeet shooting. The second item was I bought a side-by-side last night, and was getting ready to park it, and for some reason it wasn't in gear and it slid over the front end of the trailer. So a big shout out to J&S Towing for this afternoon for saving the day, or else I wouldn't be here. So I have nothing else to report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariano. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. This past weekend, I had the privilege of going to see a new resident perform at the museum this weekend. It was Copper Planet Improv, and that is the husband of Amna Sadiq. His name is Javier, and my brother and I actually got to participate in it. It's a lot of fun. And if anybody's interested in doing improv, I think he's going to start a course for people to learn about improv. A lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Interesting. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few things. First of all, I'd like to thank the city. Got to go to Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago with the mayor, myself, and Councilman Rios, and Paul and Linda. And what a great visit. So it wasn't a vacation by any means, but we it was quick. We flew out Tuesday morning, got to D.C. in the afternoon. Our lobbyist picked us up, took us out to dinner, and then Wednesday was all day meetings. Met with several senators and congressmen to push things that we need for the city. Fire truck, fire station, police cars, the McCormick Wash, and there's one other thing.
Federal Rail,
Federal Rail, yeah,
yeah, and then our delegation.
right.
I think there are 8 total.
8 total?
Yeah.
Well, those are the ones I remember. It was a head spin, so, and then we flew back home Thursday morning, so it was just like, land, do that, go back. So, but it was a great experience, so I just want to thank the city for letting me participate this night. And it says something about being retired.
You can do things.
I can do things.
Yeah.
Second of all, I'd like to remind everybody about the spring clean. It's this weekend, April 11th, 12th, and 13th. We have free dumpster days. There's going to be a total of 4 of them. One by the dog park, one behind the teepee by the library, another one at Ash and Mesquite, And the fourth one will be at 621 Fifth Street. No refrigerators or Freon items allowed. And then the dog park, metal appliances, tires, furniture, electronics, batteries, and green waste. So if you have anything large to get rid of, this weekend's the time to do it. And then we're gonna have a weekend clean Friday and Saturday, right, Linda? Downtown. So we're gonna be planting flowers, painting, freshening things up downtown. So if you'd like to help with that too, I would suggest that you see Linda to sign up for helping out with that. And then, got to attend the ribbon cutting that we've been waiting for how long?
That's not
A mucho long time.
With the Upper Canal Creek Bridge, it was a great ribbon cutting, and a lot of people showed up for that. And so far, everybody I've talked to that goes through that way is just happier than a clam. So, congratulations to everybody that was involved in that.
Our staff.
And then, just a reminder of the Easter stroll downtown. That's on April 19th, the day before Easter. I believe you show up at the train depot and then walk the sidewalks of downtown. And then lastly, I was able to attend the Wings of Hope on Saturday, and that was in Miami, or Miami.
Good, thank you.
That was that was a great turnout. Gosh, thousands of people. I think.
Oh, excellent.
And cars and lowriders and food carts and the whole works.
That's very good.
It was a blast, and we were there for a few hours. So that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We had Arizona Highways doing filming this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. They went to various businesses. I know they went to the Silver Tap, Salinas, our dog park. They concentrate on the art. I was able to do an interview with them on Saturday morning, so it'll be in the next series of Arizona Highways. I don't know when that actually comes out. I think they'll let us know, and then we'll pass that along. The ribbon cutting for Hill Street School Apartments is
Friday.
Friday at 11 o'clock. So I think you have to RSVP, but it's been out there. They're gonna have the official ribbon cutting though. They have various people there for that event too. My next coffee with the mayor is the 16th, so it'll be a week from tomorrow. It'll be 1 o'clock at Copper City's Coffee. Anybody wanting to come and visit and ask questions or get information, please come by and we'll try, my vice mayor also goes with me, and we'll try and answer as many of the questions as we can. Before I pass it on to Paul, I'd like to just take a moment of silence for Janet Gibson. That's former Mayor Gibson's wife that passed away last night. So if we could have a moment of silence for Janet. Thank you. Paul?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you very much. We're very busy in the thick of it right now. We got the budget is in full swing, getting department meetings with, getting everything together, some of the work group meetings, everything's going. On top of that, we have a lot going on this meeting, but this is nothing compared to April 22nd. The 2 weeks. I won't be there. 2 weeks of tonight. We got a lot we're trying to get done. We like I say, it's just the timing, the ebb and flow on the items. But yeah, happy to see some of the big projects taken care of. Getting the bridge opened, the Hill Street grand opening, so much going on. The event this weekend they worked so hard on, and the weather was fighting with us on First Friday, but still, a lot of people downtown having fun anyway. So that's all I have for you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Thank you, Paul. We got our first community call to the public. Do we have anybody online, anybody on the phone? We have no call cards, I guess.
No, sir. I have nothing on
Nothing on
text, no.
And I see nothing in the email.
Okay. So we'll go to special presentations, and our first one is 3A. I'll be reading a proclamation for Globe Library proclaiming Library Day, April 6th through the 12th. This is in honor of National Library Week. National Library Week 2025 proclamation. Whereas library sparks creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. Whereas libraries serve as vibrant community hubs, connecting people with knowledge, technology, and resources while fostering civic engagement, critical thinking, and lifelong learning. Whereas libraries provide free and equitable access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals, regardless of background, have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. Whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations, connecting the dots to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. Whereas libraries empower job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources, training, and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. Whereas libraries nurture young minds through story times, STEM programs, and literacy initiatives, fostering curiosity and a love of learning that lasts a lifetime. Whereas libraries protect the right to read, think, and explore without censorship, standing as champions of intellectual freedom and free expression. Whereas dedicated librarians and library workers provide welcoming spaces that inspire discovery, collaboration, and creativity for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers across the county are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme, Drawn to the Library. Now therefore it be resolved, I, Al Gamarras, Mayor of City Globe, and Globe City Council proclaim April 6 to 12, 2025 as National Library Week. So if we can have our library.
Library? No. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, as a representative for the council who sits on the library committee group, I just want to give Rael and her staff a good, because they do a lot of work. If you just look at our packet today, we have how to eat better. We've got a reading kickoff program for the kids. And then, of course, I always harp on the monthly program. So she does a lot of work there. And I just wanted to let everybody know that she does a good job and her staff does a good job. And there's some other things about the library we'll bring up throughout the year now.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Item B is read a proclamation proclaiming April 5th through 11th, 2025 as Week of the Young Child in Globe, Arizona, to First Things First. And Carolyn is here to accept that, so I'll read that. Week of the Young Child 2025 proclamation, City of Globe Council. Whereas all Arizona's children deserve access to quality early care and education environments, and whereas quality child care programs build children's lifelong learning skills during the critical years from birth to age 5, and whereas ECE teachers and child care providers are the essential workforce that helps Arizona parents get to work or school, and whereas funding quality child care is a smart investment that improves family well-being, strengthens communities, and grows our state's prosperity. And whereas, first things first, Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, Southern Arizona Association of Education of Young Children, and other community organizations, in conjunction with the National Association of the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the 54th anniversary of the Week of the Young Child. And whereas these organizations are working to improve equitable early childhood opportunities that provide a strong start for children in the city of Globe. And whereas public policies that support ECE for Arizona's youngest learners help our families, communities, and the economy thrive. Now therefore, I, Al Gameros, Mayor of Globe, and Globe City Council do hereby proclaim April 5th through 11th, 2025 as the Week of the Young Child in Globe, Arizona, and encourage all citizens to support and invest in early care and education in our community. Did you want to say anything, and I'll present it to you?
Sure. I just wanted to thank you all for doing this. I do appreciate it, and I am a proud member of the City of Globe, and hope to ensure that our youngest children become our future. So the Week of the Young Child is a time to recognize that children's opportunities are our responsibilities, and to recommit ourselves to ensuring that each and every child experiences the type of early environment at home, at childcare, and at school, and in our community that will promote their early learning. I want to just take a moment to recognize all of the organizations in town that diligently work for young children on a daily basis. So first on the list is the Globe Public Library. I'd like to recognize them for their story times, their STEM programs, summer reading, and a robust children's section that they have available. The Globe Parks and Recreation for having the ability to have our parks have available playground equipment for very small children, as well as the swimming pool. That's important for our very young children, and I want to just recognize the city for having that foresight to think of our youngest residents. The Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which is available to all residents. Copper Rim Preschool, which has a highly quality rated program. So I'm very proud to say that in Gila County, of the preschools that have a rating, our preschools are up there. It goes to a 5 level, and I think all of ours are 3 and above. So that's a great thing. Early Head Start, which is a home visitation program. Child and Family Resources, which is also a home visitation program. Chicanos por la Causa, that has a home visitation program. Arizona Youth Partnership, which has both parenting education and a home visitation program. The University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, who do developmental and sensory screening for young children. Arizona Early Intervention Program, who works with children with special needs, and that starts at birth. So all of the school districts that we have that are working toward this. The Department of Economic Security Division of Developmental Disabilities, which is for special needs children. We have the Department of Economic Security Child Care, which provides subsidies for families. We have the Department of Economic Security Child Support Enforcement. We also have the Department of Child Safety. We have physicians, medical personnel, and our hospital that all focus on young children. We have pre-T-ball, AYSO, youth sports, and the youth club that all focus on young children as well. And we have numerous family members, friends, and neighbors who provide childcare, a lot of times for free, so that parents can work in our community and help our economy to thrive. So I want to give a shout out to the nanas, because without our nanas, I don't know where we would be. They're the ones that step up, and they're the ones that take care of our kids. and we need to learn from them. So I thank you and appreciate the opportunity. Got a little emotional there.
All right.
That's like your dental.
I had a good nana.
Item C, the council will be presented with a water conservation landscape design policy presentation prepared by the Planning Center for planning purposes only, with no formal action to be taken, and funded through the Growing Water Smart Grant sponsored by Sonoran Institute. Melissa?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, a group of city staff members and Councilman Gonzalez and a few representatives from the town of Miami attended a water conservation workshop hosted by the Sonoran Institute almost 2 years ago now. Following that workshop, we became eligible for a technical assistance grant to support the development of the city's first ever draft of a landscape policy, which is an important foundational step that can help guide future zoning code updates. Well-written landscape standards create outdoor spaces that reflect in pride in a community. They can support economic development, improve curb appeal, encourage quality investment, and increase property values. And with funding from this grant, we were able to bring in experts to do that. The Planning Center is an award-winning Arizona-based firm out of Tucson. Their team has extensive experience working with several communities across the state in projects like this one: planning and zoning, landscape architecture, illustration, mapping, and more. Daniel Bradshaw is a practicing landscape architect from the Planning Center, and he is here with us today to walk through the proposed landscape standards. And this presentation is the result of working closely with city staff and was developed with a thoughtful understanding of our region, both geographically and in terms of our unique community dynamics. So I'll let him take over from here.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. It's a pleasure and a privilege. As Melissa mentioned, we have been working with her and her team and city staff now over the past year to develop these draft standards for landscape design in the city of Globe. And I recognize that the topic of water conservation is a topic that has been an important topic of conversation now for several years. And obviously this is the culmination of some of those conversations, but it's also just the beginning, right? Because this draft here for these landscape standards provides proposal recommendations that could become a part of future code. And obviously, what I'm going to do today is provide a brief overview and a summary of the work that we've provided, as well as dive into some of the strategies that we recommend and policy proposal recommendations as well. Make sure I've got the clicker here, right? Okay, perfect. So as Melissa mentioned, the Planning Center is a private consulting firm. We do provide land use planning and landscape architecture services, and we have been providing those services in the state of Arizona for over 40 years. I've worked in jurisdictions throughout the state on landscape plans and on the preparation of design guidelines specifically geared towards water conservation, streetscape beautification, and other elements. But today, obviously, the topic of conversation is water conservation. I'm sure that you're probably wondering what the full extent and scope and intent of these landscape design standards are, and I want to direct you to that second bullet point there on your screen there. Essentially, the policy proposal recommendations are intended to guide landscape design process for new development or the expansion of existing development that would require a major or minor site plan review process. So currently, zoning code requires that when a major or minor site plan review process occurs, that a landscape plan is also reviewed at that time here. So what we're not proposing is a new process, but simply to utilize the existing process to review landscape plans according to some additional guidelines and standards that will help to ensure that landscapes conserve water to the greatest extent feasible. I want to reiterate that this is particularly for commercial projects. So, you know, if in a hypothetical scenario, if a developer were to propose the construction of a hotel or a small shopping center or a restaurant, these standards would help guide the design of landscape for that project. They're not intended to guide the design of residential yards or custom homes, or even to direct the design guidelines that might be established by an HOA. So this is essentially landscape design standards for projects that require the site plan review that the city currently provides, or a tentative plat review as well. What I should also note here is that the strategies I'll be discussing tonight are increasingly becoming far more common amongst jurisdictions as jurisdictions realize that water conservation is becoming increasingly important for those locales. And I should also mention that the strategies I'll be discussing tonight are becoming more and more commonplace amongst landscape architects, particularly those that are registered in the state, that practice in the state, and generally located in the state. So nothing that I'm proposing tonight would be new or unique to a landscape architect that practices regularly in the state amongst other jurisdictions. Okay, so the standards describe essentially 5 key elements or strategies that can be implemented in the design process to help ensure that our landscapes on commercial properties conserve water to the greatest extent feasible. And what you see above you there are those 5 categories, and I plan to dive into each of those categories here over the course of the next few minutes to provide a description, talk about policy proposal recommendations, and how the city would provide a compliance review according to those policy proposal recommendations. So the first bullet point that you see there is site resources. When I say site resources, that can be a broad term, and it could include everything from the rock, boulders, washes, drainage ways within a project site, but I'm speaking specifically tonight about the existing plant material that you'd find on a project site prior to construction processes, right? So if you have a project site that has not been disturbed or graded previously, there's likely going to be native plants on that site. We'll talk about why it's important to understand what plant communities are growing there. The second bullet point is plants. We'll talk about plant installation and specification in the landscape plans to ensure that plants that are being selected for a project site are suitable for that project site. 3, shade and mulch, and how shade and mulch can help to conserve water. 4, contemporary irrigation technologies, and 5, rainwater harvesting. So existing vegetation. Why is it important to understand what's growing on your site? Well, the plants that are growing there now are growing without the intervention of humans, right? They don't need irrigation because they survive on natural rainfall. They are suitable to the local climate conditions, the solar orientation. You know, it's really interesting that certain plant communities thrive better in certain conditions, even in the desert here. So what you'll notice sometimes is on the southern elevation of a hill or a slope, you might find one plant community, but on the northern side of that same hill, you might find an entirely separate community with separate plant species. Understanding that relationship is important. These plants also thrive in local soil conditions, and that's important as well. Understanding what's on the site can affect the preparation of landscape plans because it can inform what type of plant material ought to be specified with a commercial project. So policy proposal recommendations would include an inventory, requiring an inventory of what we'll call protected plant species within the project's grading limits. Now, protected plant species can be determined, and we've specified some examples of what that might be in these draft landscape standards, but those are plants or species that provide high value for the community. So perhaps these are plants that really reflect the community identity. Perhaps these are plants that provide great landscape value because they're readily available in local nurseries. Perhaps these are plants that provide shade value because they can grow into large trees that can provide shade over a sidewalk or a parking lot. We would ask that developers are familiar with what's going on the site and then determine if salvage is possible. Sometimes salvage of native plants can be had very feasibly, very easily, particularly if the site is very accessible, if the plant species are young and they're quite healthy. You can actually ensure that those plants are pulled up out of the site and then replanted with the commercial development. Alternatively, if plants are to be removed from a site, the design team hired by that developer would propose a mitigation strategy. That is to say, if an accounting was done and 8 protected trees were found on that site, then the landscape plans would then ensure that 8 protected trees are installed into that landscape. Once again, those trees, because they're growing there naturally, tend to be great options for the landscape because they simply require less maintenance over time, less water, and they provide great value for habitat and community identity as well. So what might compliance review look like? Well, currently landscape plans are submitted to the city for review with the minor or major site plan. In this case, a sheet would be added to those landscape plans referred to as the native plant plan. And this sheet would simply be an accounting of what's on site. It would likely show the project boundary and the extent of grading that would occur on that project site. And then if there are any protected plants within the limits of grading, identifying both the species of that plant and the quantity of those plants there, which could inform the landscape plans themselves.
Mike?
So, within these plans, if a developer comes in, we, the city, would be responsible for knowing what's out there already and everything, and whether they can level it off or can't level it off?
So typically what would happen is the developer or the developer's team, and what we've specified in these standards is that you'd have a member of that team that would either be a landscape architect or a horticulturist or a botanist or someone that has a specialization in plant identification would be the one to go out on the site, determine if there are any protected plant species, and then prepare the information that would be submitted to the city so that you would review that and say, okay, you have found that there are no protected species here, or you have found that there are perhaps several protected species here that would need to be incorporated into the landscape plans. So that would be on the onus of the developer and the developer's consultant team when preparing plans for city review. Yeah. Okay, this next image here, or this next slide here, just shows essentially plant inventory processes and salvage processes occurring. I'll point out that the top left-hand photo is actually a picture of me. I'm conducting a survey of mesquite trees to determine the feasibility of salvage of those trees. And then the actual salvage process can be quite interesting when you see large yucca or saguaro, ocotillo, or trees that are effectively pulled out of the ground and stored into the landscape. Okay, number 2, plants. In parentheses there, I've listed native, near native, and drought-tolerant plants. So I've talked about the importance of native plants, but near native plants are those that might not grow in our region, but grow in similar regions within the area here. Maybe plants that you can find in climates similar to ours in Texas or in Colorado, southern Utah, and the like. These are also oftentimes very appropriate for our environment. Drought-tolerant plants don't necessarily need to be native or near native. They could potentially come from other parts of the world, but once again, come from areas that have similar climates to ours so that they're adaptable to our climate here. Understanding when you use plants that are suitable for our climate, once again, there's just less long-term cost because there's less maintenance, there's less water. You don't generally need to add amendments to the soil. They're happy thriving in the conditions that we provide here naturally. If you do use native plants, they can absolutely celebrate the local character of the city here. You know, I imagine that the city of Globe wants to be the city of Globe and not necessarily look like a city in another part of the country. And native plants are a great way to ensure that local identity is celebrated. So policy proposal recommendations ensure that, for example, the native plant mitigation requirements that we talked about in the previous slide are depicted in the landscape plans. That as a landscape reviewer for the city looks at those landscape plans, they can say, okay, there were 8 protected plant species that were identified on site, and I can see those species incorporated into these landscape plans. So we are ensuring, once again, that plants are being incorporated that are suitable to the environment. requiring plant selection from approved plant lists. The Arizona Department of Water Resources has prepared some really wonderful plant lists that describe appropriate plants for the conditions that we live in here. And there's also information on these plant lists about maintenance and watering requirements as well. Most landscape architects in the state are very familiar with these plant lists because they're often adopted by jurisdictions and are the approved plant lists that landscape architects work with. They're fairly robust. They're quite large plant lists. I've never felt limited by what I can find in ADWR plant lists. Policy recommendation would also be to prohibit certain plant species that might be problematic. They can be destructive, invasive, maybe they're high water use. There can also be limitations on turf grass, that it's limited to areas of high activity, parks, schoolyards, sports fields, but less utilized in areas where they might solely have an aesthetic appeal, like a median in the center of a street, right? What might compliance review look like? Well, the landscape plans, which are currently required for submittal, would need to address plant specifications and installation details that ensure that these policy recommendations are being met. So this next slide here is just some of my favorite plants that grow in the beautiful Arizona desert here. Everything from yucca to agave, beautiful wildflowers. We're really blessed. Okay, number 3, shade and mulch. So how do shade and mulch help to conserve rainwater in a commercial landscape? Well, shade trees cool microclimates. Mulch does the same thing. It regulates soil temperature. And when you can regulate soil temperature, you can ensure that moisture stays in the soil a little bit longer, right? So a nice thick mulch underneath of a shade tree, you're gonna find that the plants in those conditions are gonna respond to more moisture in the soil, perhaps than one that's outside in full sun without much in the way of mulch, right? Organic mulches are also great in that they can help to mend the soil. And so over time, you can actually add a lot of nutrients back into the soil, which can be quite productive for some plant species. So policy proposal recommendations would look like requiring trees along streetscapes, within buffer yards, among buildings, or throughout parking lots. And there's more specific specifications in these draft standards that talk about how that might work. But for example, within a parking lot, one policy recommendation would be to require 1 shade tree for every 4 parking spaces. That could be around the perimeter of the parking lot. That could occur within islands or diamonds within the parking lot, but those shade trees not only shade vehicles, but they also shade the asphalt, which reduces the overall radiated heat that we find so problematic in certain parts of the state that are quite urbanized. Requiring mulch in all landscape areas. This is best practices and typically, and pretty typical to most projects, but that also ensures that there are dust control measures, right? So once a project site is graded, that site isn't left with barren soil conditions that would eventually lead to erosion, dust, other problems, but that mulch would cover those spaces as well. And once again, that could be inorganic mulch or organic mulch. And here we've got an image here that shows on the left-hand side the beauty of shade trees. I love the image in the bottom left-hand corner that shows shade over a sidewalk that just provides great comfort and value for pedestrians. And then on the right side, we see kind of the 2 most common types of mulches in the desert, bark mulches and rock mulches. And even amongst rock mulches, what we're finding more often than not right now is that a mulch that we refer to as desert cobble is depicted in the bottom right-hand corner. And that's a rock mulch that's comprised of rock of various sizes. It has a very natural feel. So oftentimes in areas where you want to mimic the natural desert, we specify rock mulches that actually represent the natural desert, but it still provides great value and that it mitigates the soil temperatures underneath that rock. Okay. Yes, please.
Under shade trees, is there a recommendation as to, because you see all these shade trees in parking lots, you're saying 1 per 4 cars, and this last wind event, and even in the valley, in an area we went to, there were shade trees broken all over.
Right.
So is there a certain tree that's stronger than other ones?
Absolutely. Certain trees that are better adapted to our monsoon winds than others. So what it comes down to more often than not are trees with shallow root systems tend to topple over in high winds far more readily than trees with deep root systems. And so we'll actually talk about that here in a second when we look at irrigation, but installing what we refer to as deep root irrigation systems, which can be as simple as a PVC pipe that allows you to irrigate at a lower depth in the soil than the surface of the soil, drives those roots down into the soil and helps to ensure that trees grow healthier and that they're stronger and that they withstand our high winds. Also, we know that there are some hybrid trees that are utilized frequently in the landscape that just simply do not grow deep root systems. Mesquite trees, for example, are native mesquites. They grow deep root systems. They survive in the native desert. But the hybrids, which are often a mix between our native mesquite trees and mesquite trees from South America, generally have very shallow root systems. So oftentimes those are the first to go in a storm. So understanding the difference between even the trees and which ones can produce those deep root systems is really important. And ensuring that, for example, prohibiting the use of maybe hybrid trees in certain circumstances or scenarios would eliminate some of the risk with trees toppling over in high winds.
Thank you.
Okay, number 4, contemporary irrigation technology. So we live at a time right now which is really exciting because technology is advancing rapidly. Well, it's the same thing in the irrigation industry. It seems like every year or a few years there's a new app, a new equipment that ensures that irrigation is more efficient, recognizes potential leaks or problems in the system, responds well to climate conditions. So there's a variety of products available in the market right now. The great thing is most irrigation technology is readily very affordable. In installing certain elements, we'll talk about them here in a second. We're talking about hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars, and you get a lot of bang for the buck. So controllers are automatic, right? And automatic controllers have been around for quite some time now, where you can set the irrigation system to irrigate according to certain parameters at certain seasons, but they've gotten really advanced now. And so you can control these irrigation controllers now through Wi-Fi or apps. You can link them to weather stations so they can respond to current climate conditions. You can link them to soil sensors so that they can understand maybe when the soil does not need irrigation because it's still wet after a rainstorm, for example, or turn an irrigation system off if it's maybe running when a storm hits. And we've probably all seen that before, where sprinklers are going off in a ball field and it's raining outside, and it's just it's kind of ironic, right? But a contemporary system with contemporary technology will actually turn that system off because it's raining outside. You can also install flow sensors, which will detect leaks in a system to ensure that your system functions correctly and efficiently. And once again, all of these types of technologies are not terribly expensive, and they're becoming more and more common in the landscape every year. So what would policy proposal recommendations be? Well, it would be one to require that commercial irrigation systems are connected to a dedicated irrigation meter rather than to a building water meter. And that ensures that we understand exactly how much water is moving through that system because it's dedicated for the irrigation system. Requiring permanent subsurface point source drip irrigation system. So drip systems are not new. They've been around for some time now, but they're the most efficient irrigation system on the market, where you provide a specific amount of water to a specific location at the base of a plant. What's really great about that is over time, after a plant has established itself, if that plant is native, it can be taken off of the irrigation system. That could be done as simple as turning off the valve that would irrigate that particular section of the landscape, or you could even go through plant by plant and plug up the irrigation emitters. And there are emitter plugs that will essentially stop irrigation from coming out of that emitter. If, for example, you have a section there where the native plants require no additional irrigation, but maybe some of the non-natives do, you can tailor that system specifically to the plant's needs. Compliance review, what might this look like? Well, with the landscape plans, a sheet would be included in that set that's referred to as the irrigation plan. This would show the schematic design of the irrigation system and show how what types of irrigation technologies are being incorporated into that system to meet the policy proposal. All right, some photos here of kind of some of the cool and emerging technologies here. The image on the bottom left hand of the screen there, that represents deep root irrigation, where you simply irrigate at the depths of the root system rather than solely at the top of the soil. It drives those roots down deep into the ground. In the center of the image there, you see weather stations, soil moisture gauges, You've got point source drip irrigation in the bottom right-hand corner, an individual accessing their irrigation system with an app on their phone up in the upper right-hand corner as well. So maintenance contractors they don't even necessarily need to get out of their vehicle. They can pull up to a commercial site. They can access the irrigation system's information. They could potentially solve problems, adjust irrigation seasonally, and be on their way without really having to spend a whole lot of time on site. So it makes operations quite effective as well. All right, number 5, rainwater harvesting strategies. So when I say rainwater harvesting, I'm effectively saying capturing rainwater to supplement irrigation in the landscape. There are several ways in which we can capture rainwater. There are passive methods and active methods. An active method would be capturing rainwater in a cistern, for example, storing that water for future use. Passive rainwater harvesting, which is more common than any type of rainwater harvesting, is simply ensuring that the rainwater is collected in small micro basins within the landscape. Those are areas that are depressed within the landscape so they might fill with several inches of rainwater in a storm. But the goal here is to slow, spread, and sink that rainwater. It's the 3 S's of rainwater harvesting. If you can slow it down, if you can spread it out and sink it in the ground, your plants are going to be really happy. I think we've probably all seen when you drive along, a highway or a freeway, you look just off the road there, and you'll find an abundance of wildflowers and grasses within that first 5 feet or so at the shoulder. That's because water's coming off the roadway, and those plants there are happy. Then you move 15, 20 feet beyond that, and you don't see the same density of plant material, right? So what you do when you capture that rainwater in small basins is you bring that same, edge condition you'd find along a highway or freeway into the landscape. Just enhances whatever plant material that you have there. So policy proposal recommendations: to depress all landscape areas 4 to 9 inches where feasible. And there are a number of caveats here, right? So if slope prohibits depression of landscape, there would be no requirement to harvest rainwater on a slope where you couldn't do it. Perhaps there might be utility constraints, or maybe you're constrained by space because the landscape is located in close proximity to a building foundation where you may not want to harvest additional rainwater. There are a number of caveats here, but essentially in areas where you have relatively flat ground and you're away from any sort of constraint, simply depressing that landscape somewhat to collect rainwater where it falls is really helpful. Alternatively, you can grade the site to drain to those spaces, and that's the preferred solution here. So that as an architect and a civil engineer are determining the building design and the parking lot design and how water moves through the site, rather than moving that water straight to a drainage basin or off-site immediately, that water first is distributed to the landscape before it exits the property or goes into a drainage basin. And you do that by ensuring that your roof drains, your scuppers are all designed to move water where you want it moved. Once it's in the landscape, there are various ways in which you can slow, spread, and sink that water. Swales, basins, gabions, which are effectively metal baskets with rock that help to slow water down but not impede it completely, are really great at incorporating into a water harvesting plan. And so what this compliance review would require is another sheet within the landscape plans that shows how the developer and their consultant team intends to harvest rainwater for this project. Last slide here are some images that show successful rainwater harvesting strategies in areas both in the state and out of the state. But I want to point out in the top right-hand corner, sometimes it's as simple as an opening in the curb where water can drain off of the local road into a depressed area. The image in the center is a chicane or a landscape bump out at an intersection. Once again, the curbs have been removed from at least one side there so that water can drain from the roadway into that space, and that area is depressed 6 to 9 inches. So that water is not going to be there very long, but it will be there for several hours after a rainstorm and ensure that that soil is well irrigated. So sometimes the rainwater harvesting strategies are very simple and very cost effective. Simply removing curb at times or opening curbs up or providing scuppers is an easy way to ensure that your plants receive irrigation that supplements any sort of, or receive rainwater that would supplement irrigation. So with that here, I'll turn this back up to the kind of this front cover slide here. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have or turn the time back over to Melissa as well. But once again, I appreciate being here to present this draft set of standards and policy recommendations.
Mike, go ahead.
So this is a proposal right now to something just to look at in community development? Steve?
So,
Tony, I mean, forget it's Steve.
Sorry, Councilman,
I'm
I
sorry
couldn't hear you back there. If you can repeat that, please.
Okay, with the, obviously this is a proposal before us to maybe look at our streetscaping when we get involved with doing the remodeling out here on Broad. And that would probably come under your department's.
Yeah, so you're I think you're referring to the US Highway 60 designation for beautification. And the program that was once in place that really hasn't been followed up over the past. And I can't really touch too much on that because I am not privy to all the information historically. But yes, to answer your questions, this would be something that we would implement to help us restore that, and with our neighbors and through the city as well. But I think the main purpose of the planning center, and I could be corrected here, but is really to address new development and have something in Globe. So we're considered a northern area. And we do lack a lot of landscape criteria here, trees, shrubs, things like that. So that's why we're trying to re-implement and implement the new planning center details such as this, so we can get back into getting our area green. And I don't know if I'm really saying that right, but yeah, I mean, if you want to hit on that, but yeah.
This would be something that we would probably implement in on the Marigold development.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's a good example of inventory, because where it hit on the inventory of planting, and again, we have the professional here to help answer that, but it's that we have a lot of numerous native plants and thriving plants that we just don't want to destroy. So we want to have some accountability for that to some degree, and use for it, or reuse, if I read that right, right?
Right.
So, you know, we just don't want to go in and plow areas like that to form paths or plats, and not have, you know, some idea of what we're going to do with those plantings, how we can utilize them there, or maybe somewhere else. Kind of like all the protected plants that are on the protected list, you know, we just don't go in when they put developments, they don't go in and just dissolve those areas. They have a plan and an inventory structure such as this, I would imagine how that works.
Right. What I will touch on is native plant preservation or salvage plans have been adopted by jurisdictions over probably the past 15 to 20 years generally. I don't know that we find many that are much longer than 20, 25 years, but in those areas where they were first adopted, it was an attempt to utilize plant material that simply wasn't available readily in nurseries. Because if you go back to the 1990s, for example, landscapes then incorporated a lot of foreign plants, oleanders and African sumac and other plants that aren't trending today because we've moved closer towards native plants. But what that meant is you almost had to have a native plant preservation ordinance in place, because it simply wasn't possible to find a lot of the native plants in nurseries. So you'd remove the native landscape and then you'd replant it with plant material that maybe wasn't suitable. The good thing is, because the trend has been towards native plants over the past 20 years, more and more natives are more readily available at nurseries. So in the event where you do an accounting of a specific location and you find that there might be plants that you want to keep on that site there, but for whatever reason you can't salvage them, you know, maybe they're simply too big to salvage. Maybe the soil conditions are poor, and if you attempt to salvage it, the root system will fall apart. There's a variety of reasons why it might not be a good idea to salvage, but knowing that often those plants are now available in nurseries, you can say, okay, well, we may not be able to salvage it, but we can get some of these same species onto this site here because we know they grow well here.
And
Councilman, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, just so you know, this is a proposal that we received that for a draft set of standards. This is not adoption of a policy or anything. This has to go through our public process and putting it in as a set of standards as we have in other areas. So this is the first part of this process. And it will go through many iterations as we move it forward, and council, P&Z and council approval. And we will probably, look at some of these, some are slam dunks, some we'll talk about. But in general, it's a good starting point. We really appreciate having this as a place to pick up and start making those, okay, how do we want to tweak this in a globe manner, and to fit our needs and our future council's future desire. So again, this is just, there's no action on this other than hearing the presentation, accepting this. But it also, Melissa, you also said it helps with some grant opportunities? By
Yeah,
having
a lot of grants require to show that we have policy in place or we have standards in place. And we don't currently. So.
Yeah, so it's something that we, whatever we come up with that's right for Globe, we need to work towards that. That's part of our, trajectory is as we modernize. And again, this is commercial only and new construction only, nothing to do with residential, and not retroactive or put back on anybody.
Melissa, Daniel, thank you for the presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Item D is the council be presented with the results of the City of Globe Community Survey. Linda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're excited to share the findings of we called it the Strategic Action Planning Community Survey, and this is really as a temperature check, seeing if what we're focusing on as a city in our strategic action and council's strategic action plan, if that aligns with what our City of Globe residents would like to see us do here in the city. Let's see. Thank you, Danny. Okay, we had a total of 161 responses. It went live on December 24th and it closed, I believe, the third week in January. So it was open a month. And we would like, of course, to see more responses. And I think as we move forward and have more community surveys, we'll just see an increased response over time. The first, we focused on what type of businesses or services are most needed in Globe. What gaps are there in our business landscape? Retail was a big request. Up to 70% of our respondees would like to see more retail options in our city. Entertainment options. Some of the more detailed feedback that we received verbally, that's like arcades or family fun centers and things like that. Outdoor recreation-based businesses. We're really promoting our outdoors as a economic driver for the community, and people are responding to that. And also, I think that's why so many people live here. Access to the outdoors, our proximity to Roosevelt Lake, the trails, hiking, biking, and of course the urban trails that we've seen created here in our downtown, especially Arizona. Health and wellness options and more professional services, 30%. Restaurants, and we've seen a huge uptick in the development of restaurants in the area in the last year. And of course, other. Where did our respondees, where do they usually shop for their goods and services? 40% here shop locally. We know that we have a lot of leakage to the valley, and it's because we, of course, don't have the national chains here that so many are going down to, Costco, things like this, the stores at the mall. Online shopping, I mean, that was a fantastic thing during COVID for the city of Globe. We saw a huge uptick in our sales tax revenue. And of course, traveling to neighboring cities. Miami does have some options, and really we consider the East Valley neighboring. So what can the city do to attract more visitors? Develop more outdoor recreation areas. I think the city does focus on that. We've seen the pool, the parks. We know of the coming park at Kaiser Crossing that's coming soon. Create more events and festivals. I mean, we all know this is easier said than done. It's a huge undertaking. And First Friday's been a fantastic example of that, and you'll see that it is mentioned further on into the survey. Preserve and promote our historic sites. 50% of the respondees said that. And invest in tourism marketing, which council has for the last, 4 years now? Come join me. And tag team if I'm missing anything.
Okay.
What barriers do you see that may prevent economic growth in Globe? And I think this is the case across the country. That's the high cost of doing business. Securing a brick and mortar location. If you're right in the city of Globe, just with the uptick in restaurant development, I mean, Vice Mayor knows what an undertaking that is. Having to do grease traps, hood systems, things like this. It's a huge investment. So
Everyday costs.
yeah, everyday
everything.
costs, staffing,
Mm-hmm.
of course, your inventory. Of course, limited marketing and promotion of Globe. I was very surprised that was said. Did you want to comment on that one?
I wasn't surprised because we're not marketing locally, so people aren't seeing
yeah.
the marketing. So I guess maybe we need to tell people we're marketing more locally. So
That's true, because if we're seeing it, we're not marketing to those that are coming in for our tourism marketing.
Mr. Mayor, but your external advertising and marketing and pushing through the internet is working.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I run into new people in town, I ask them, why did you come? A biker in a beautiful green, I guess it was a Harley, was leaving the Drift Inn. Didn't know him, and I asked him, are you from out of town? Yes, I am, by way of Chicago, I believe he said.
Oh, wow.
And I said, how did you find out about the Drift Inn? He said, well, it's on our schedule of tours that we do. I'm staying in Scottsdale, and we came up here one day. We came again today, and this is Saturday or Sunday, because your community is a throwback to a different time. It's very much of the 50s and 60s, and you can see it, and they love coming here. So yes, focus a little more on local advertising, but your external marketing is working. Just want you to know
Great
that.
to know.
good to
Yeah.
know. And we hear that all the time.
The last one that says lack of available land or space for business. I don't understand that one. We have plenty of land around here available. Is it controlled by the mines or?
Well, Gila County being less than 3% privately owned land.
Mhm.
So yes, that is a challenge, absolutely. And then, of course, we have the buildings, some of the buildings in our downtown that are owned and used for possibly storage or held because the owner wants to be the one to carry the project over the finish line. And maybe that might not be the case. I think, and this is something that council has discussed, creating an ordinance that would be an incentive to activate these spaces again in our downtown.
Our biggest opportunity is infill. But if we
Absolutely.
don't have the opportunity to do infill because people are holding on to it, then we'd have a lack of available space.
Yeah.
You got your land too, that there's a, a lot of, either in a floodplain or flood zone, so that prohibits people, it's a long process to try and get something available through.
It
When you have
is.
land that's in that designation.
Well, and if they have any type of loans or funding that's federally sourced, it cannot be put towards these types of properties. We asked attendees, do you find any of these a current challenge? 70% housing availability or affordability. We all know that. That is our biggest challenge here and our biggest opportunity.
Yes.
Absolutely. So someone mentioned Marigold, oh, excuse me, it was Tony, at the previous presentation, and that will just open up opportunities for us with business. The development itself has a retail portion to it. The multifamily development has that's the upstairs from the second floor up, but the first floor is all retail and restaurants and services. So it's really a great design to help bring community and activity to that neighborhood. Limited recreational activities, 60% responded with that. Of course, we don't have everything for everybody. We are trying, and you know, with the pool, we are looking to expand our pool offerings, our recreational programming in that arena. So
I looked at that one a little differently, actually. I saw that one as there's not recreational businesses, so people aren't seeing organized recreational activities from businesses in town. So they're like Topo Joe's takes mountain biking now, so that's a recreational activity. But what else is there? Is there?
You don't have a unique sporting goods store. in town.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I think that's where the lack of recreational activities is coming in, maybe. I don't think they're seeing it as the pool. I think they're seeing it as the business market.
One that I hear a lot of too, and I don't know how to go about that, is having a bowling alley in our community.
yes.
That's what I
Yeah,
was.
it's
major
the
one.
business market is missing.
That would be huge if we could do that again.
It would. And again, where it's the space.
Then John wouldn't have any benches or anything in his place. We have to get the.
Access to healthcare. Again, traffic or transportation. And I think that came back to public transportation, and that's actually a future slide that I think will be surprising to us. And then a scale of 1 to 100, how concerned are you about blight in our community? So 56, is that 56% or 56 of the respondees?
56 out of 100, so it's basically 56% concerned.
Which cultural or community events do you most enjoy in Globe? Festivals and parades, of course, and First Fridays, the top two. What types of amenities or programs should the city invest in to improve quality of life? Youth and teen programming. I don't think that's a surprise to any of us. And actually, First Friday has been, it's been a great draw for our youth. That was actually one of the most unexpected things about First Friday, is that it's really been a family-forward, family-friendly event. And we see, yes, it does bring in unwanted activity at times into downtown with unsupervised teens, but for the most part, it's been a really positive thing for our youth. Parks and trails, we all know that's why we all live here in the weather. Expanded public art or cultural programs. Senior services, and now that we have our new, in fact, we'll bring her back on the 22nd to introduce her, our recreational and special events manager. We are working on bringing additional programming into the senior center. And what are the most pressing infrastructure needs in Globe? Yes, we all know that our roads can use a little bit of love, but again, that comes back to funding. Upgrades to parks and facilities, I think that, you know, we've been doing that incrementally, but of course we would all love to see it all done all at once and checked off. Sidewalk improvements, again, I think, you know, a really powerful metric is the miles of sidewalks. Well, actually, the miles of road, and I know John has that in a spreadsheet. How many miles do we actually have to maintain and to improve? And it's mind-blowing. It's a lot. So we repair, improve the most critical in the moment, and then, of course, we have to just eat the elephant one bite at a time. Let's see, reliable internet and communication networks. Yes, we could definitely see some improvement in that area, and the county has taken the lead in that. I know that they are working on a phase 3 grant on broadband, and so we should hope to hear more in the fall on that. Water and sewer networks. Did you want to talk about that?
It was just, there's not much to talk about.
Okay. I didn't-
It's one of the lower ones. I'm not sure. I think the water lines break, as we all know, and people marked it down as one of their options.
Just 4th Street, huh, John? Vince?
We all know it's an issue.
Next question, how satisfied are you with the condition of Globe's roads and sidewalks?
So 36% satisfied out of 100.
Have you used the available public transportation system? 20% of the respondees don't even know we have one. So I think that's something that we can take back to the board and see, and we can help to coordinate that on our end as well, and how to get that word out there. I think with the addition of the new bus stop at Gorman, I think we're seeing an uptick in the usage.
Oh, yeah. We might have to put a cover over there.
20% is a big number, though.
How likely would it be for you to consider water conservation efforts in your household? How timely? 56% of our respondees said they would be nearly 60% likely. What are your top concerns about public safety in Globe? Top 1, police presence and response time. Dale would love this video, or this slide. More men, more trucks. Or excuse me, more officers, more trucks. Nearly equal is disaster preparedness. You know, we recently experienced flooding and wildfires. I think that's in the front of everyone's minds. Of course, traffic safety, fire services, emergency medical response, kind of lower on the end. How would you rate your overall safety in Globe? 55% are about 55% satisfied. What programs or initiatives could improve public safety in Globe? Increased police patrolling makes the top. Neighborhood watch programs. At the bottom, improved emergency communication system. And again, please stop us if you have any comments or questions, or we can wait till the end. Do you feel informed about emergency plans for natural disaster? 34% are about 34%. They feel informed. And how would you rank the safety of your neighborhood?
3.38.
3.38.
It's pretty low.
What percentage?
Out of 5, so
Huh?
out of 5 stars, so it's a little
Out of what?
out of 5
Out of
stars.
5, so 3.38. They would rank the safety of their neighborhoods.
That's from the total
3 out of 5.
responses?
Yes.
Yes, 145 people answered, 16 skipped. Because it was an anonymous survey,
No, that's not bad.
the people, and the people who skipped were probably, non-residents, or just associated with Globe in some way, and that's kind of the next questions. How long have you lived in or near Globe? Most respondees, well over 10 years.
Good.
60% of our respondees are. What is your primary connection to Globe? So over 80% are residents. 45-ish% work in Globe. Those are the top 2. Which area of Globe do you live in or visit most frequently? Look at historic downtown Globe. That's really been an uptick. That's just been increasing and increasing as we see more businesses develop in the downtown, as the downtown beautification efforts are increased.
Interesting.
Councilman Pastor, your District 2, maybe number 3.
We got all the restaurants.
You do, you've got all the
District
hot
4 is
spots.
downtown too.
We got Ash Street.
Yeah.
District 4 is downtown, and it's lower.
Ah,
Yeah, but most people.
but most people don't
a lot of people
realize
know
what
the
district they're in.
The
They
other,
don't know.
the other on this one was, I don't know my district.
Yeah.
So we did discover that we probably need to do a little more district education out there.
What is your age group?
Just take that, the bypass. Tons of them.
Most of our respondees were 35 to 44. We actually thought the top 2 would be flipped. We thought most would be 65 and over, so that was kind of interesting to see. We were happy to get respondees 18 to 24. 'Cause most don't use Facebook, though we did use other socials.
We actually did all of the socials. We did boxes out in the library and here at City Hall. We were handing out things at First Friday, basically begging people to take the survey. Just really, really pushing it.
What is your household size? Overwhelmingly 2 people. I think this is important to have as we talk to developers that are interested in coming to Globe, because we definitely, I think this demonstrates what type of product may be the most marketable here. So something for retirees, of course, and we do have the regional medical hub here, so we have a good offering of medical services. And of course, family homes, 3 to 4 people. What is your primary employment status? Most everyone who responded are employed full-time. Again, that mirrors the younger demographic who are the largest group to answer. Do you rent or own your residence? Nearly 90% own. And what best describes your household income level? So nearly neck and neck, between 50, just under 75, and 100 to 150. And so this is good data to show, like national QSRs that don't consider coming to Globe because we don't meet the median income requirements, or we don't have the number of rooftops that they would like to see. So we're working with Placer AI to demonstrate that Globe, it's not your typical retail circle, that we really have about a 60 to 80 mile draw. So when you're down in the valley in a national chain, you know, a retailer or even a QSR, quick serve restaurant, you know, they're looking at a retail circle of about 10 miles. And that here, that wouldn't be very much. So people are coming from Hayden, Winkleman, Mammoth, all the way from Safford, all the way from, you know, nearly Shola, White River. So we have such a big draw, Tano Basin, that we're just not your typical market. And so we're working with Placer to develop a portfolio so that we can give that to site selectors and developers to show that we are a viable market.
I remember when I was working with the Forest Service, one of their key reasons for locating here during big fire incidences was because there's 5 exits out of this community.
Exactly.
And that was, you know, that's why they headquarter up here in Globe a lot because of that.
You know, and that may also be the reason why we have the #1 McDonald's in retail sales in the state, number 6 in the nation.
That's crazy.
Wow. You know, that metric alone makes us more viable to other QSRs, and so we've been using that in PDMs to demonstrate that Globe we're a viable market again.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of traffic, too much traffic.
Too much is good. Good problem to have. Any other questions?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, to Linda and Melissa, what do you do with all this information?
So this helps, we had mentioned it, during the slideshow, you know, some of the data that we were able to gather can help drive what type of housing is more needed in our community. Is it condos? Is it patio homes? Is it single-family homes? Is it multifamily? We all know that it's probably all of the above, but you know, information is power. So again, we take this, we use it with Placer to help drive a better picture of the city of Globe, because you know, just again, like I had said a few minutes ago, just looking at the city, our population, I think we're at 7117, and our median income, we don't look viable, but we absolutely are. So we have to be creative when we're telling our story, marketing the city of Globe. And when we market the city, we do look outside the boundaries of the city limits because we have to. So because again, having not very much flat buildable land, we don't have that luxury like Pinal County does. So as Melissa had mentioned, infill is absolutely a focus, you know, and we're working with developers. And when we say developers, those who are coming in and seeing this as an opportunity, look, you know, seeking out single family homes that they can invest in and either rent or put back on the market and sell. So we want to see that. We want to see neighborhoods brought back to life and revitalized. We want to see those property values maintained and increased. So all of this information helps guide that, helps us to go and recruit businesses, you know, with our economic development department, business retention, expansion. I'm missing one, the acronym.
Business retention and expansion.
There we go. Program. We look at opportunities to bring in new businesses, to work with our existing businesses. How can they expand to meet the needs, the wants of our community? So just having these surveys come out, and we're going to be doing that more regularly, so that can help guide current business owners to maybe diversify their stock.
It also gives us a preview of what the community perception is and where they are, so that we can get a feel of where and what we're doing. And
I really think this is good information.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's real good. I appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Of course, I don't like all the traffic anymore. I'll live with it.
Something I hear a lot of, and I think it's really justifiable, is that how do we have our businesses, instead of closing on Sunday, Monday, and close Tuesday, Wednesday or something, because when the highway is closed and they come up on Sunday, Monday, everything's closed. I mean, how do we get that out there to our business community, that, because there's a lot more traffic here on Mondays and Fridays than there is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Absolutely.
So
One-on-one communication.
So how do we do that so they buy into that? And I don't know if you can provide us, I'd like to see a comparison matrix of
Traffic.
the lost revenue traffic on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday compared to it was before the project started on the highway.
that's a good idea.
We can absolutely do that.
And that's another 2 years at least.
Not longer.
Now, what Ian is working on it pretty good.
Yeah, we could absolutely market our city, our region as the place to go on Mondays and Fridays, you know,
Yeah, if we can get them
between
open,
Friday
it'd
and
be
Monday.
great.
Do a Friday, Monday.
Yep.
promotion.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to present, and we look forward to continuing working with our community more to drive development. Thank you.
Thank you. Item E is council will be presented with the business license update. Tony.
Tony?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'd like to just give you a quick update on our business licensing with some stats and information for you. Let me just get a quick grip on this. So a lot of this is repeat information. I like to throw it back out there just so everybody has an understanding, and sometimes we forget the attributes of business licensing. So by our ordinance, business regulations, chapter 8, business licensing is required. I won't read it word for word, but any business that conducts operations in the city of Globe, whether brick and mortar or transient in nature, are required to have business licensing here. So the types of licenses that we see, but again, not limited to our retail, wholesale, service industry. We have our professions, our food vendors, our mobile vendors, our liquor sales, our cannabis sales, and utility services such as that would be APS, cable, electric, so forth. Why is it important to have this? I get the question a lot, and to reinforce why we have business licensing is, again, and I'll hit these real quick for you, is it allows business to operate legally within our jurisdiction. We ensure compliance with state reporting and local laws, right? That's state, federal, local, and our ordinances. It allows jurisdictions to keep track of development needs. That's a big thing for our ED department, economic development. You know, understanding the products, goods, and services that our city can offer goes a long ways for us. And that, you know, that really is something that we focus on for, you know, future needs, development needs, service needs, products, goods, and services to our citizens of the city. Licensing protects the public. It verifies legitimacy of the business, credibility to their customers, helps build trust with them as well. In today's day and age, as you may see on the news or in articles, news articles, that we deal with a lot of fraudulent activity that includes business use, people utilizing other people's business, just like we would if it's personal on a residential side. Same thing goes with businesses. We see fraud being committed where they're coming in, they're putting applications in for loans under somebody else's business name, EIN number, and tax information. So this helps with that. So it's a big aspect of that. Public safety needs. This is a very big point here, is that licensing fees are designated towards our public safety, and that addresses our resources, our personnel, our equipment to adequately provide public safety services when needed. Different types of businesses in the city of Globe, whether it be just a kind of an inert retail sales all the way to a hazmat facility, somewhere that may use propane, liquefied gases, or vapor gases, things like that. So this is what helps with that, as well as public safety. So the draw on traffic that comes along with that, portions of these revenues help offset that. So that's maintenance to our streets, our sidewalks, right? That back up to these facilities. So that's where a portion of those funds go to, and that's what we utilize it for. C of O, certificate of occupancy. It works with the licensing. This is a very important aspect. It allows us to get in and make sure that these buildings are safe for patrons to enter. You expect to go into a facility and come back out alive and well, right? And in so many instances, we see issues with this. So if you all remember just the recent incident, Macedonia nightclub, kind of the same incident that occurred years ago with the Whitesnake concert, Macedonia, 60 people died in one event. Over 150 people were severely injured. They didn't have a C of O, they didn't have business licensing. And now these folks are being criminally charged. This is the importance of this. You go in that Macedonia building, we have windows that were barred up, we have back doors that were locked. That's a criminal offense. We're allowing patrons, people coming in to have a good time, or to utilize your services, or to buy your products. They should feel safe going in and out. So that's where that C of O comes in, and that's really important and works really well with with our business licensing. I'd like to just hit some real quick stats for you. This is 2025 first quarter renewals. We've broken into 4 quarters. You'll see business and vendors. You'll see that revenue at 59,388. Utility service businesses, 193,483. And you'll see the total there. Now, below that, you'll see utility services. I just put a little note there to make it aware of how these things work. So with our utility services, these are by ordinance, $500 per quarter and 3% of their total business revenues conducted. These are done in quarters. We have 4 quarters. So if you do the math and work it off, now numbers could be skewed a little based on that 3% reporting. But if you do the math on that 193 and you multiply that times 4, that's where that 773, 935 comes in. And so you'll see how that works for now. So other further license breakdown, we have 481 license renewals thus far, 18 new licenses, meaning those are new additional licenses that came in during our first quarter reporting. We have 6 nonprofit licensing. Those are no fee licensing. We still collect their info, right, for all the reasons why I mentioned in the previous slides, but they don't pay fees. So when they're a nonprofit 501(c)(3) and they present that information, those fees are then waived and adheres to, again, to our ordinance requirements. So a total on that is 505, and that's for our first quarter reporting. The further numbers you see, the 106 one-time licenses, we're calling that OTL. These are closed licenses. So those numbers are minused from our total numbers. And what we're doing with these is that these are what you see mostly are the out-of-town workers coming into town. They get a license to do work, whether it's a contractor or a service company. They come in and they do a job, and then they may not have another job here for, well, it could be ever, or it could be months, or it could be years. So what we're doing is we're designating those with the OTL designation because we're putting a lot of time, effort, and money, revenue into trying to renew these. And what we found is that they're not renewing them for the purposes I just stated. So what we're doing is calling them OTLs. We close them at the end of the year, and we let the license holder at that time make the decision if they want to renew at that point, and it cleans up the system a little bit and seems to work much nicer. The 110 unlicensed businesses / not renewed is pretty much, you know, what it means. So we have thus far 110 businesses that have not renewed their licenses that are typically, these are the brick and mortar locations that you're seeing that we are addressing at this point to get them renewed. I'd like to say too, because of this new year, and we had some new applications go out because we were lacking information. We've done so much better. We have a responsibility to be able to contact our businesses and provide contact to them and have the information to make contact. We just didn't have that. State, federal, local laws require that we have certain information. We adhere to that. We got a lot of these packets back. You know, it's one of those things where, you know, it kind of hurts people because they feel like they don't want to partake in the, you know, listening to information, but this doesn't happen every year. This is something that we would do every so often, so we make sure our information is correct, valid, and that we can get a hold of people. We actually had licenses before that were under deceased people's names. It's not good. So, you know, we extended our time frame for people to adapt to the change in the information. That was a helpful item, but we still are a little short, and we are working on that.
Just a quick question on that slide. The utilities, that include like phone, electric, gas, all the internet, all that, is that all included in that category then?
So you're talking about here, Mayor, where,
Utility service, yeah, where we're getting the 3%, we collect 3%?
yeah, so on their quarterly payments, so their total business work, is 3% of what they're reporting, along with the $500 per quarter, as per ordinance, yes. Councilman?
Okay, so you show 216 closed licenses and not renewed licenses, right? 216 total. Does that come off of the total above the 505?
It's already been taken off.
Oh, okay.
So 505 is a true number.
Okay, good.
Good question.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Mariano?
On that same thing, I'd like to comment on utility service business fees. I hear through the year, all of you as department heads and your assistants are dialoguing with the utilities in various planning functions. And that needs to be pointed out because you're cleaning up, having too many light posts in the area. You're working on straightening out some of the sidewalks or poorly planned placement of a light post, for example. So it spills over into the dialogue of planning with everyone. And we love that big number, but there's the responsibility of the utilities to work with you to do enhancements to the delivery of the services and how they're delivered, the infrastructure. So I want that pointed out that, well, I take note of that. As a planner, I've always wanted things to be more streamlined, more up to date, improvements made to the infrastructure that they take care of. And I see that all the time. They just put a new electric line, or I should say a transformer, in my neighborhood.
Right.
They'd had a power failure the day before or the night before, and they identified that transformer was a problem. And they came in the next day and replaced it. And to me, that's a gold star. They're keeping an eye on their infrastructure. They're working with you all and identifying the needs going into the future. The older pieces of infrastructure gradually are being replaced. So when I get asked, well, what's that utility doing for the city of Globe? I say, oh, you need to understand it's a big planning process with the city as well. So these are things the public doesn't hear about, the planning processes that they bring to that table. The revenue is wonderful, but I'm more interested in planning processes to improve the infrastructure.
Absolutely.
For the next snowstorm or flood or fire, these are the things that makes it, the word is resiliency. It makes the community more resilient and the ability to recover after a major disaster or just a snowstorm or rainstorm. It makes it a better process to recover.
Absolutely, it's a good point.
That's
Thank
all I
you.
have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Tony, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, sir.
Item 4 is we have consent calendar. Matters listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and been acted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may also remove any item for separate consideration. Item A is consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. 1, accounts payable $776,996.57. 2, consideration of approval of council minutes. Consideration to September 24, 2024 meeting minutes. Consideration of October 8, 2024 meeting minutes. Consideration of October 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. And consideration of the December 19, 2024 special meeting minutes. Anybody from the staff, council, or public wishing to remove any of these items for separate consideration?
Mr. Mayor, hearing no objections to the consent agenda item, I would make a motion that we receive all 4 items as presented.
Second.
Motion second for approval of the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. New business. Item A is notification of application of the Arizona State Library 2025 Library Services and Technology Act Express Hotspot Lending Grant for $4,000 that will continue funding the Wi-Fi for seniors and student programs. The city will track this grant through grant number GS-25-15-05066 LSTA Express Hotspot Lending Grant. And, oh, there, okay.
She'll sneak up on you.
I'm very good at being quiet. The, good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is the same grant that we applied for last year and received. This is just basically a notification that we applied for it again this year. So fingers crossed, goes through and we get that $4,000.
So is this a move forward as a ratification, or is it?
It pending approval of the grant, you'll hear back in May.
Yeah, so there's no requirement to, we can move it forward, no requirement to waive the rule.
Okay.
So we got a little time. It's, like I say, it's,
It'll
the
come back.
the funding is caught up in some of the, you know,
Political,
yeah, some of the
Infighting.
scrutiny going on.
Yep.
All right.
statewide, not national.
Oh, no, that's national.
No, it's national.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of library
That's a
funds that
question
are
I
being
had
cut.
for Carol, so I'll see you after Carol.
Okay, so any other questions or comments? So we don't need a motion or?
No, you
There's
said
no
that.
actions necessary, she's just giving us
We
information.
need to move it to the next.
Good job.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we won't know till May.
Thank you there.
Thank you, Rael. We don't have to vote on the grant since it's submitted?
She's just applying for it.
They already did.
Hang on a
This is just
second,
a
Mayor.
notification.
I think, yeah, no, I think you would take a motion second to move it forward to the next available meeting.
Okay.
And that would be the simple move, but it would take a vote to do that.
I'd make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second?
Motion second to move item 5A to the next available meeting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed. Item B is discussion and consideration to approve resolution 1903 for the submission of the 2026 Arizona Governor's Office Highway Safety Grant, application GS 2657-05064, DUI Task Force Grant for $10,282, and GS 2657-05065, Traffic Enforcement Grant for $12,604, and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule. And who's doing that one?
The chief is not here. He was in the valley checking on, just checking in on a couple people. So I'm going to take the item, but Shelley will actually read the resolution.
Resolution 1903.
Resolution number 1903, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, pertaining to the submission of projects for consideration in the Arizona's 2026 Highway Safety Plan and appointing the city's chief of police as the city's agent to represent the city's interest in processing of related grants. Is the council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, PD is once again lucky enough to be applying for the Arizona Governor's Office of Highway Safety, 2 grants there. Impaired driving grant amount of $10,282, and traffic enforcement grant, basically speed enforcement, amount of $12,604. If awarded, this is a no match reimbursable grant. We've used it before, so for the DUI, they would have additional overtime equipment like breathalyzer tests, and we would up our impaired driving patrol. So they would send an officer out specifically in overtime to look for DUIs and look for people endangering others by drinking and driving. The second grant would be to additional traffic speed enforcement. LiDAR or radar units would be deployed or purchased, and additional overtime for speed enforcement. So they were working the overpasses earlier today. Like I say, the Chief Walters is trying to bring down serious accidents, fatal accidents in town, and both these are big help. Just to get a little bit of extra overtime and some extra equipment, it's a really good investment. So they need the resolution so they can continue the grant, and then that'll get us lined up for budget time.
Mike?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment, Mr. Mayor, that we do need to have speed control in this area.
Mhm.
There's no way you can drive 35 miles an hour or 45 miles an hour. It's either 50 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour to get from that side of town to the other side of town. It's crazy out there. It's ridiculous. So I hope he can get some more of those, because a lot of people.
Yeah, we
complain
have
to me about speeding.
he
And I
is-
says, hey, I live right on
Yeah.
off of Ash, and I know what you're talking about. So
Yeah, no,
it would be nice if we could get some more of those radar signs or whatever they
yeah,
have.
no, they're working on some more, a variety of equipment,
Good.
and getting it put up on the 60. As Chief Walters would say, Globe has the two things that Arizona drivers hate, and that's hills and curves. And, and so when you get the passers through, they don't realize it's a small town, they don't realize they need to slow down. And you get that mixture of locals and the travelers going through there, and it's plus you add the trucks.
Yeah.
And then you add the acid trucks.
And that was a subject brought up with the coffee with the mayor, was the danger at the intersections with these big trucks that are not stopping at red lights. I did have a conversation, passed that on to Chief Walters, and ironically, this last week, I saw 3 trucks pulled over, which is good.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause they're flying through our community, and it's mainly on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays when they're trying to beat the roads and stuff like that in opening.
Third and Ash.
Running the light.
Yeah, no, we had an officer that was hit at Third and Ash, making a left and somebody ran the light and
Oh,
took
yeah,
out his
they run it all the time.
right-hand door, and then we parked it down by,
I saw it.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, everybody's seen that. They've all called us. We all got calls on that.
waiting to be repaired. But no, this is important. The PD is, that is one of his primary goals, is to slow everybody down and make it safe in Global.
Good. Yeah, great.
Do we have a motion for,
Oh, and we'd like to waive the rule on this so we can get this going.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we approve, what was it?
Resolution 19?
Yes. Yeah, agenda item 5B, is that what it is?
5B, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
As presented.
Yeah, waive the rules.
And waive the rules, I'm sorry.
A second.
Motion second for approval of resolution 1903 is read. Is there any, and waive the rules. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Motion passed. Item C is council will discuss and possibly approve a request by staff to repair an ordinance amending Article 3 of the City Globe Purchasing Code for goods and services to increase the threshold requiring the use of competitive solicitation from 50,000 to 125,000. Section 3-5-15D and Section 3-5-16, and increase the threshold requiring statement of qualifications solicitation from 50,000 to 125,000 for the professional services, Section 3-5-23D, to be returned for final approval at the next meeting.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we were asking permission to return an ordinance to make an adjustment to our procurement code. We had a major overhaul in 2019 of our procurement code. We're fairly happy with everything we've done there, but the goal of procurement is get the best value. And what we've found is the best value for the taxpayers' money is not just the lowest cost, but time is now a major factor in the value. If you get a little bit lower price, but it's going to take a year to implement it, that is not the best value. And if you take the time, if it takes a long time to get it procured, we see the prices going up. We've seen it with the bridge, the fire station proposals,
Okay.
ladder, the pool, the other bridge. So we're making a tweak to our procurement. Right now, our procurement at anything under 5,000, we buy at market price. 5,000, and this is goods and services, this is not construction. We have two aspects. Goods and services are things we buy with the city procurement. Anything from 5 to 25,000, we get 3 informal bids. From 25 to 50, we get 3 formal bids, and the difference between the difference between informal and formal. Formal, you have somebody's name on it. Informal, if you're shopping for something, you can go and get 3 quotes from a store, and you just pull it off the web, or they email it to you. But then at 50,000, we require to go through a competitive solicitation, and that is where we advertise for the whatever we're looking for, whether it's a purchase or normally it's a contract with a company to do work. You have to advertise that. You have a formal proposal that they have to respond to. You have a response that you have to have a formal bid opening, and then an evaluation process, and then an award. There's dates and times and requirements, everything like that. Right now, we need to go to that if it's over 50,000. Well, 50,000 in some of the stuff we do with some, what I would call medium projects. So a small project is maybe a project that when it comes to time to do it, 1 to 3 weeks. A medium project, maybe 1 to 3 months. A large project, 1 to 3 years. The bridge and would be that bigger projects. We'll always do a solicitation for the large projects that we do. The small projects, we do the 3 bids, but we'd like to move the needle for going to a solicitation from 50,000 to 125,000. Not only do we have we have the inflation, but supply chain, labor costs, things like that. To get these medium-sized projects done, many times we know of people who are capable of doing them. That's one of the reasons we have the on-calls. We do this, but this is more so on the goods and services side. We know people who are capable of doing these projects, but they're not, because of the small price, because it's in that, let's say, $50,000 to $125,000 window. They're not going to go through all that labor to do a solicitation and meet the deadlines and everything, and then the labor that it takes for us to do it, and then the time. Do a competitive solicitation, 45 to 60 days. And so we believe that we can get these projects done. We can still make sure that we are saving money and getting the best prices on these medium-sized projects without going through this competitive the process, just by doing our bidding process and doing our homework. But the advantage is we can get it done, and we can get that project moving and probably beat in the price. Because, if you wait, when we get somebody qualified for a job, we hire them the next day, because we don't want to wait around until something better comes along and they switch. We get somebody that's ready to do and gives us a quote. We want to get them going right now. And so this is going to, I believe that in order to get projects going quickly and at a reduced cost, I think by making this change is really gonna help us move projects. Construction side, if we're doing water, wastewater, and some heavy duty road stuff, but mainly water, wastewater, let's talk about that. We use state procurement requirements there. And for state procurement, even you're looking at 200 and 250,000 before you have to go to public solicitation by way of the state. So we're not out of bounds with this. Bill Sims has said that many of his smaller cities have gone and are upping this threshold.
Makes sense.
What we're not doing, though, is we're not changing the threshold at when we bring a contract to council. If it's over 25,000, we're bringing it to you no matter what. Whatever the solicitation method we use, procurement method we use, we'll bring it to council, and then we always announce it. Our under 25,000 list are those things that we don't have to bring, but we notify you in a public forum, and that's really important too. So I really think that the cost benefit, competitive solicitation is supposed to get the best bang for the buck and the best money. I think we can still get the best bids through our process, these medium-sized projects, through the bid process, or through the quote process, rather than the formality, and save money and get the projects finished.
Mr. Mayor, I like the idea. It might encourage vendors to step forward that hadn't stepped forward before because of the long processing. And as long as your department heads are on board with this and can provide you counsel
Well,
in their
it
area
was
of
came from,
expertise.
well, he's not in the room, but, where's Travis? So.
As long as they have input to that process is what I'm trying to get to. As long as they're on board with that, then yes, the process should be faster, and maybe vendors that hadn't stepped up before at that price range will step up. And I think that's an encouragement for the business community.
And procurement is one of the more complicated. The only thing, taxation is the most complicated thing. Property tax is the absolute most complicated thing in state law that cities have to deal with. Procurement is probably number 2. There are ways that instead of doing competitive solicitation, we can go for co-op, we can do JOC, we can do other things. But those don't always get us the lowest price either, because we're tagging on to somebody else's competitive bid, but not necessarily the lowest bid. So, John's gonna, okay.
That's good.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted to add on to, actually onto your point, Councilman Gonzalez. Public Works, it does affect us greatly. This would definitely help us in that manner, because not only do we follow all the procurement process, but also have the supply, the demand, and everything just goes in line. So a lot of times too, the procurement can, if it's taken too long or we're following a process, and contractors a lot of times too, just like Paul mentioned, we're trying to get these projects done. So this definitely does help us, in Public Works is in support of this.
But we're not getting it done by going expensive. These people are, we're still having to get the lowest price, and we seek out the lowest price, and they know that. I'm sorry, Mayor.
So how do we assure, I guess my question would be, how do you get on that list? Is it just a list that we have, or can other people get on this list to be considered as these?
We still have, and I think I know under Jeannie, we did a list of preferred vendors that we will notify and look at. And I'll tell you, if there's somebody out there that's looking for work, we're all over that, because we want to bid this to more people. We don't have our favorites. We have the people who know us and that know Globe and know that we can be trusted, and that our word is our bond, and will come do business with us. People who are familiar with how the city works are going to give a tighter bid, because there's no surprises. If you're bidding in a city and you don't know kind of how that city goes, then you're going to add a little bit more in there, because there may be something you're not aware of, and it pops up and it's going to cost you some more money. This is not the Meridian type bid. This is not, the pool of things. This is for the meat and potatoes of getting stuff done. A lot of it construction.
It makes sense.
It does make sense.
But we're always trying to advertise, or get as many people as we can.
on there.
To your point, recently we had some of the procurement stuff what we're doing for some of our projects. That's kind of reminds us to tighten that list up, just like Paul mentioned. Jeannie used to have a specific list she shared with us annually or semi-annually when they're coming in, or vendors reach out to us and we put them on that list. Staff has been, Travis, Eric, Jessica, been working to expand those lists and actually get those from previous contractors to current or possibly future projects that we may be looking at to extend those services.
Great.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, there's also in there, the primary one is competitive solicitation, but also professional services. Professional services is somebody that is a person in their profession who has been trained and schooled and has credentials and a record. To go to a solicitation, or what is it? There's a word that I'm forgetting. Statement of qualifications is another formal way of looking for multiple people who might do the work. Professional services. But I will tell you that a lot of the people that we hire are people who we become aware of and recruit them to come here and get them to help us out. Tina Allen would be one of those people that we lucked upon through a series of connections of city managers and if we had to go through and do a statement of qualifications for her, that would be, it would be a deal killer to her. You know, she's doing this on the side, she's retired. And so taking this up to 125, without having them to do a formal process to get to hire on with us as a contractor. So we're moving that one also.
Mr. Mayor, if there's no further discussion on this item, I would make a motion that we approve it as presented.
Move forward, I think.
Move forward.
Yes, yeah, I do want, well, what you're doing is your permission to bring forward an ordinance.
Okay.
We haven't written the ordinance. I don't want to count my votes before they're hatched.
Okay.
And so if you, your direction would be to move forward to return with an ordinance at the next available meeting.
So stated.
Second.
Motion second, to move forward item 5C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Motion passes. Item D is discussion and approval and possible ratification for check number 96037 for $25,000 made payable to Rosenbauer, Minnesota LLC as a deposit to hold the 776069 King Cobra aerial ladder truck funded through GL 10565232 and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we had a meeting, we were talking about the budget, in multiple conversations at multiple attempts. We've been trying to find a way to find financing for a ladder truck. That has slowed us down, and even the mayor yourself have noted that we need to get this done. What we've decided, and you saw we had the ladder truck, the ladder truck here on site. They're limited, their availability. They had a spec one that was was available to be sold rather than a custom built one. And so they have those every so often, but by purchasing a spec that is running through the line that's already been initiated, we can cut off about 18 months, or about 12 to 18 months. Let's say 9 to 12 months on the process of building that ladder truck. It's still an 18-month process for that ladder to go through and be available for our purchase. But we can save some time. We still have to nail down funding. We have options. There may be donations. There may be partnerships with local for-profit industries. There may be other options for funding. It may be that it's partial, may be a lease, and it may be a combination of all that we get the funding. But I fear that if we wait to get the funding in place, that then we're another 18 months out to get the engine or the ladder into the queue and into our hands. So given that conversation, it was $25,000 to put a down payment to start the process for what is currently a $2.4 million ladder, with upfitting probably another $200,000. It guarantees that this truck, when it comes out the other side, will be ours. It does not guarantee the price, but there's not much we can do about that. I will tell you, if we wait till we have the funding, it will be more. If we bought it, when we first started looking at it, it would have been in the 1.6 probably. Well, I remember 1.2 way back before pandemic, and it's not going to get any cheaper. So we took because of the timeliness and the conversation with council, I took it upon myself to go ahead and send in and initiate that process. If you are, this is a ratification, so this would be to bless that payment. If you reject this, and this is council, it's for you to either support or reject. We can cancel that, and we would be out $5,000. There's in the first, I think, 30 to 60 days, if you pull back from that deposit, all but 5,000 is refundable. I think at 90 days, it's like 10,000, 120. It's pretty much the whole contract, or the whole 25,000. But we still have that option. If council were to reject this, we would be out $5,000. But I felt it was important because of the timeliness of, and the need to nail down a truck that was available. I took it upon myself to do that.
Okay, that doesn't guarantee the price though.
Does not, in the contract says, does not guarantee, it guarantees the model, and it guarantees what it, you know, what they sell, but that price may grow due to certain factors.
Due to add-ons?
No, due to supply side, increases in steel, increases in,
And we're gonna see that, we're gonna
Yeah.
see the increase in
Right.
steel, so, how do we guarantee a price? I mean, it could go another $1 million.
yeah. If we paid cash on the barrelhead up front, we would guarantee the price
Up front.
up front. I mean, if we, yeah.
This is just to hold it.
This is to put our name on it as it goes through the line. And it'll come out with the same model, with the same spec. There'll be other trucks that'll come out at that end. If we were to, and I don't expect it to be, you know, outrageously much more. And with 25,000 down, if it turns out that it's outrageous and council's upset about and thinks it's unfair, we can, you know, save the money by eating the 25.
Yeah, well, we're seeing the tariffs on steel now, and that the steel is gonna be a big, you know, when you're talking 35% more on steel, that truck is gonna go up, way up.
Right, but, you know, and so
Not if we put our money down now.
Well, we did, but
I-
we can't.
The truck's already in line, is being constructed.
No, you gotta pay
No,
for it.
it's in the queue, it's got a VIN number and everything like that, and it's ready. I don't know if they're actually bolting it together, but it's got a date to start assembly.
The sooner the better.
Yeah, but Mayor, I will tell you that, the tariffs are going back and forth, they're changing daily, they're coming, they're going, it is some say it's an effort to zero out tariffs on both sides. Some say that it's an effort to leverage and bring other countries to the table so they can negotiate. I don't think anybody thinks that the tariffs are gonna be a long term. They may be a short term from 1 to 3 months, but by the time that this happens, I think that the tariff solution will have worked its way out and will not be as you know. But I'm just telling you, that's what I hear when they talk about this. This is a kind of a shock to the system in order to get people to the negotiating table. I think once the negotiations take on, I will tell you that the current president is not against cutting a deal for U.S. Steel to have investment by Japan, which he had said that he would be, and that would have been a blow to the steel industry. Right. So, and that's how you get around a tariff, by manufacturing your steel here. Mm-hmm. So, Mayor, I think we need to kind of take a chance, put our marker down. I think we got a good chance of success of having a product that's of value, of the right worth. I don't think it's going to be overpriced. I don't think I think our situation will be much worse off if we don't act now. At least we're starting the path. We have a plan. We have a truck that'll be available for purchase at a price.
Well, there's no doubt this is a priority. We have to have a ladder truck in our community. I think it's time that we go after our partners within the community.
Yes.
We're talking the mining community, we're talking the town of Miami, we're talking Tri-City Fire District. There is no ladder. If I have a question with Chief Bejarano, if I could ask some questions. I mean, this is a priority, but this isn't just our problem, this is a community problem. And it's a priority.
Yeah.
We need to get us a ladder truck.
Yeah, and I will tell you, we've done this before. We need to get this ladder truck. We need to get the process rolling, and then as that date gets closer, we can work with our partners and get them on board and do what it takes and close the gap. We've done it before with the pool. I think with our partners, I think we'll get the same reception. But
I think with the product, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I think with the product that we're looking for, we've done a little bit of background checks. We're looking at the product. It is it's an excellent product. You got to experience it yourself. Looking at it, getting to compare with other producers out there, with Pierce and some of the other companies, we know that Rosenbauer is going to be a very sought after piece of equipment. We're seeing that, we're talking to them, and we know that they're being lined up in the queue as we speak. So this would get our foot in the door, And there is no doubt that we need to get this really moving forward, because without it, I understand that Tri-City with their ladder truck currently, they're having some issues with that.
So theirs is not operational either?
Correct, that is correct. It is not operational at this time.
So there's no
Mr. Mayor.
ladder truck available.
Only if we can get one from beg, borrowing, or stealing from some other agency.
Well,
To my knowledge, I'm not sure of the downtime with Tri-Cities. I'm not even exactly sure what the length of time it will take to get that repaired, if that's even what they're looking to do. But currently, we are challenged by elevated hose streams.
and we not only need to make it a priority for a ladder, but we need to come up with a solution for the next 18 months till it comes here, whether it's a lease or something that we get here. And that's why I say the partnerships that are affected by this, we need to go after them also as partners to help us lease a ladder truck or get one here till we get a new one.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. And I know Chief Robinson has also explored some options with any of the agencies in the valley-based areas to see what they might have available that they can perhaps swing our way. I don't think we've had any luck with that up to this point.
Sorry, Mariano, go ahead.
That's okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. David, I have a question for you, as a prelude to what I want to say. When my parents' house burned down, was that ladder truck on the line?
Our ladder truck?
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, yes, it was already out of
okay.
offline
That's
at that point.
3 years ago, roughly now.
Yeah.
I've said this is a priority before. I've said I'd hate to have to face a constituent as their large, tall building burned down, whoever that may be. Here's the kicker. I am a victim and had to watch my parents' house burn down. And the fire truck was on site, I guess I can say that. But it didn't matter. Mother Nature was in charge of that wind that burned 2 houses and an RV down. So even in spite of the best things we can throw at a fire, sometimes all bets are off. So if you ask me, is this a priority? Of course it is. Is it going to be expensive? Of course it is. But you haven't had the bad day that I had. That day I had to go to my parents. They were at Haven. And I had to tell them that story. Gee, Mom and Dad, you lost your home. I don't want to go through that again. And I mean with a business owner or a homeowner. So to me, it's personal. We need to get that truck. We've got to find a way with the congressional delegation to get that piece of equipment, or our constituents, or a backstop or a fallback, whatever you want to call it, until that truck is online. We need it. I guess the other thing I want to say is what's next? We have some great accomplishments. We just celebrated things in the last 2 weeks about bridges and other accomplishments. But now it's time to put those down and go to the next one. This is the next one. And I don't care where we have to sign on the dotted line to get this thing. That's my recommendation to the fellow councilman. We need this one. And yes, we need a firehouse. That's the other one. But I've had to experience this, and it's not a fun moment. And I don't want to see us have to go through it again anywhere in this region. And I don't care about past history. How did we get here? I don't care about that. This is what's next, and it's on our agenda now. And we need to do something about it. And yes, we need to tap everyone we can think of to get the funding in, to complete it, seal the deal, and get it moving. Let's get it done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other question, comment?
So we have 18 months to
Get it together, and we have a deadline. We need to find funding. Like say the mayor said, I think we got some strategies, some ideas of ways that we can go and get people to partner with us. We're in that, getting started on that. This will also be both the fire station and the ladder truck will be a big part of the budget conversation. And so we can talk more about that, and we will we already have started, you know, those conversations to try to find partners. And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I will say that in 2 weeks, we will have the FireWise presentations and the APS fire prevention presentation on the April 22nd meeting. So we will talk more about this even in just 2 weeks.
Anything else, Chief?
No, other than Councilman Gonzalez, to a personal point, thank you for sharing that. It is a very difficult but intimate position that your
Yep.
family, your parents were inflicted by the fire, and Chief, and once Chief, and now Mayor Gameros, you've experienced, you know, these taller structures that we stand no chance against of being able to put out and keep them, because just based on the history of the community, from going from building to building, we need that upper hand. And this particular piece of equipment would give us that advantage. Without it, it's going to be a difficult challenge to preserve downtown Globe as it sits.
Yeah. And Mr. Mayor and members of council, Mr. Mayor, to your question earlier, I did confirm that they did take that truck, run it through the side entrance to the site for the
new site of the station?
Correct.
In the back, because I know there's
I had the opportunity to try to drive that new piece of equipment there. There's going to be a couple of challenges with it, but doing the walkthrough with the planners and the gentleman that we met with the other day, those are, I don't want to say small fixes, but it's going to be a manageable fix.
Okay.
So we'd be able to get that equipment in there.
The new fire station?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go for it, let's go, man. Let's
Okay.
make motions. Go.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item D, to ratify the check number and the amount to Rosenbauer, Minnesota, as a deposit to hold the 76069 King Cobra aerial ladder truck, funded through GL number 105652302, and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule.
I'll second the motion.
You did the waive rules?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear that,
Yes.
okay.
This will come back, but if it, you know, we have waived the rule in there,
For the
yeah.
check though, ratification.
Yeah, let's go ahead and waive the rule and just make sure we got it.
We have a motion and a second for approval of item 5D. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passed.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Item 6, action items. Item A is consideration to approve resolution 1901, uncollectible water debt in the amount of $3,301.60 for fiscal year 2024. We got Jody and Shelley. Can you read resolution number 1901?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1901, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, providing for treatment of certain debts owed the city which have been deemed potentially uncollectible, and removing same from the records as assets of the city of Globe and providing direction for future treatment of the same. Is council pleased with the reading?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back to answer any questions that you have and ask if you could approve resolution number 1901 to get this bad debt written off the books, $3,301.60 for fiscal year ending 2024.
I don't know if it was said when you presented, but this amount is way down, you know, with the job you guys are doing. I think that's a quarter of what we usually write off uncollectible. The other thing is I still want to see that we pursue not uncollectible, but people that don't pay their bills. It's 20 times this amount. So we really need to come up with a solution that people that refuse to pay their their sewer and garbage fees in areas that are Arizona water.
Right, and I know that we've been, that agreement has been, I think, in Arizona Water attorney hands. I know that we pretty much talk about it every 2 weeks, but, we're again, consistently asking, you know, to see where that's at.
Okay. Any other questions? Got a motion?
No other questions, Mayor. I'd like to approve, resolution 1901 as read.
That phone.
Second?
Motion second for approval, item 6A, resolution 1901. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you, Jody.
Thanks, Jody.
Perfect timing.
Item B is consideration to approve contract number CS 2025-0147 with 5D Mining Construction Incorporated for the installation of a concrete slab for the outdoor adult exercise equipment in the amount of $40,668 with funds to come from account number 2080-09051 grant expenditure. Vince.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I brought to you the equipment a few months ago, or last month it was, to purchase the equipment. This is the pad that the equipment will be set on. It's still in the same location up by the skate park and the soccer field location up there in that grassy area. Some of the details, it's a 69 by 35 foot pad, 8 inches thick. Totals out to about 270 square yards, and it's gonna have a ADA ramp on 2 sides of it, one from the parking lot and then one kind of by the basketball tennis court entrance right there. So, do you have any questions or comments?
Does that amount exceed the amount that was we received from BHP for that?
I do not. Linda, do we know, or John? I mean, this is fully covered, my understanding by, yeah, we're within the amount.
Yeah, I think what was the equipment was around 80,000. This brings us to 120,000. I thought the amount we got was 100,000. So we're, yeah, I mean, so it's overage on the grant itself.
We're over. We're
20,000,
over.
yeah. But it has to be done, but I mean,
But where's the 20 come from? Huh?
yeah.
We better get out the adding machine.
The 20K?
That's a big slab. And 5D does concrete. doesn't
8
it?
inches.
A lot of concrete work, yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
That's a
Wow.
lot of concrete.
That is. That's a big.
It was 190,000.
Yeah, it was.
Grant was 190?
Was it 190?
It's covered under the remainder of what is left.
Oh, what is left? Because we got a bunch of grants from BHP, so yeah.
Okay. I think I remember it was 190 and we used 22,000 for the drinking fountains and the rest was going to this project.
Okay, yeah, because I think they gave us around 50,000 for the fountains. Yeah, good. Okay. Thank you. Any questions, comments, more?
No, not at all.
Motion?
I'm just waiting for him to put it in.
And sorry, one more comment. They said we'll have to wait 2 weeks for the concrete to cure so we can install the equipment. So
When will they pour the concrete, you think?
well, they just got done with the shutdown at Freeport, so they said they're ready to go as soon as we're signed.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Okay,
I actually talked to him today. Yeah.
Good deal.
okay, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve contract number CS 2025-0147 with 5D Mining and Construction for the installation of a concrete slab for the outdoor adult exercise equipment in the amount of $40,668 with funds to come from account number 20-80-09051 grant expenditure.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of item 6B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. Thank you, Vince.
Thanks, Vince.
Item 6C, consideration to approve to enter into contract number PS 2025-0149 with Matrix New World to conduct the in situ microcosm study and reporting in the amount of $40,316.45 for the underground storage tank remediation at the public work yards with funds to come from 508051-242. John.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Bringing this contract to get for your approval, what this is as when we met with our strategic action planning, we kind of discussed our LUST project and what that is, leaking underground storage tank at our public works yard. So this has been a long-term project going, and this is kind of hoping to find some, get to the point by having this study is what we're at, where, you know, years ago when the city of Globe had applied for funding, working with ADEQ, we got the $1 million. So that process has been followed. They've been doing some testing. We have different, you know, areas that are tested, what well sites are up at our yard. So what this contract entails is actually coming up, meeting with Matrix. They have been working with ADQ and actually have the historical knowledge of our project. So that's why we're coming to you trying to get this approved, only specifically for the fact what this test does and this study does would take approximately around 5 to 6 months. But when the end result of this part would actually get us to the next stage of where we need to do final treatment of the site. And what it is to actually inject different organisms and trying to find out what's the best, like Travis's word, the best cocktail to find out what's actually there. And by doing this testing, so they will actually come back with this study and show us the methods of treatment that are going to be acceptable and within the hope. So once we get to that point, then we'll be able to have the whole plan to hopefully close this project out, and we'll apply for additional funding at that point. Right now, without the study, we don't know the exact dollar amount for it.
Okay, I get that. It's a long time on this project. What is that, 20 years, over 20?
Yeah, at least.
I remember back in, I remember our fuel, where we used to fuel right there is where.
Yes, yeah.
That's six C?
Huh?
6C? Are we ready?
Unless John has any more.
No.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of council, up until we started this process, we were on a maintenance process where we just had a maintenance contract to monitor it. And that's why it seems like it's been going on so long. Now we will have a conclusion, we'll wrap it up as a project.
And we exhausted the $1 million grant, I guess, already.
We burned through that like.
Yeah. Yeah, and ultimately, like I said, Matrix is aware of the project. They've worked with ADQ on this project. Staff has worked with Matrix, and most importantly is that, the end goal is to close this out and meet the ADQ requirements. And we've actually had meetings with them and Matrix in trying to coordinate, so we wouldn't receive any notice of violation or anything else down the road. We're following the process.
Are we gonna have to dig a tank out? Is that what we're talking about, or are we just gonna?
No, Councilman, the tanks actually were removed many years ago, probably like Mayor said, probably 25 years ago or so. But what it is actually the content of the soil as much as far as, the tank, actually from what I was told from Matrix, they said possibly the leaking has been going on for so. The good thing about part is it's not affecting any surrounding area or concern as far as affecting any well sites of the location. So they're monitoring, we have at least, I think, 7 or 8 monitoring areas, and that's throughout our yard, but it doesn't extend past that. It's not near any well or aquifer that would be.
I understand that.
But it's locked in there and hard to get out. It's in fractured granite.
Crazy how long it's been, yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would make a recommendation that we approve contract number PS 2025-0149 with Matrix New World to conduct an in situ microcosm study, reporting in the amount of $40,316.45 for the underground storage tank remediation at the Public Works Yard, with funds to come from account number 50-80-5124. Is there another two? Oh, okay, I left the last
One more,
two.
two.
Sorry about that.
I'll second.
Motion second for approve item 6C. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay?
Thank you.
Motion passed. Thank you, John.
Thanks,
6D, consideration to approve and enter into contract number CS 202505152 with Jonovich Companies for wastewater treatment plant chlorine system upgrades in the amount of $34,773.41 with funds to come from account 518052200. Vince.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, once again. Currently, right now at the wastewater plant, we're running a chlorine gas system down there. I'm not sure exactly how long that's been played down there, but
Long time.
it's kind of a dangerous situation down there. Chlorine gas is very toxic. We'd like to switch over to chlorine, liquid chlorine, similar to what we're doing out at the Cutter well fields. That's what we're using out there, and at the swimming pool. We found that it's much easier to handle, safer for our staff. Not going to miss anything with the disinfection of the effluent. So we think it's a safe move and kind of the future for us there.
Wow.
Mr. Mayor, when this system was first installed, I was working for the county, and the police chief at the time asked me to respond. They had just installed it, and it was leaking. Now, the technicians were there, and the fire department was on site, and they were prepared for any eventuality. But the police chief at the time was very worried about the wind blowing towards the city. And again, I told him, it's Mother Nature. Either something happens and it blows into the city, and we'll have to worry about it if it does occur. Nothing happened. They took care of it. There was a slight leak, and everything turned out okay. But I never forgot that moment because the chief was worried sick about it. He says, one good whiff, and we're going to have a lot of people in danger. So I'm glad you're going to liquid.
Yeah, good thing right now, we do have a sniffer down there. It detects any particulates, automatically shuts it down, and so we're safe in compliance on that
Nice,
point
that's
there.
good to
So.
hear. Very good.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve and enter into contract number CS 2025-0152 with Johnovich Companies for wastewater treatment plant chlorine system upgrades in the amount of $34,733.41, with funds to come from account number 51-80-52200.
Second?
Motion is second for approval of item 6D. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Ben.
Item 6E is consideration and possible adoption of the 2025 Strategic Action Plan. Linda?
I'm the closer. So I'll try to cruise through pretty quickly. Thank you, Danny. So the council began the strategic action planning process in 2019 with RCAC when we received the BRE grant. And so this is an update to that 3-year plan. And one thing that council has been is very consistent in focusing on the 4 priority areas. This year, after meeting with each council member and having an interview as to where their priorities were and a review of our past year's efforts, these were the 3 overarching priorities. Maintain consistent communication with our stakeholders in our community. Again, support the current SAP and those focus areas, which are public safety, infrastructure, economic development, quality of life, and financial sustainability, and workforce development opportunities for all of our city departments. We're all worried about sustainability and succession planning, and this is how we plan to improve upon those areas. In economic and community development, these are going to look very familiar because this is what council has identified from the very beginning, and that's maintaining the focus on the downtown and the redevelopment plan. As we saw in the community survey, that's where most of our residents are wanting to spend their time, is in our beautiful historic downtown. So focusing on downtown beautification. We've talked about exploring the creation of an entertainment district. This would offer incentives for more development to come into this area. It would also disincentivize having an unoccupied and not active building in our downtown. Downtown restrooms. We've talked about, actually we had a very good conversation at the SAP regarding that and some of the challenges with that. Wayfinding, and Vice Mayor Stapleton, this has been your focus for the many years that we've been doing this, and so we feel like we've come to a point where bronze plaques, and Paul talked quite a bit about what metal cost might go up to. Now that we have Bandwango, which is a marketing app that we work with our small businesses to update if they would like to on a daily basis. And as somebody goes through not just our downtown, but throughout the community, and it can be outside of the city limits, those businesses, that we can develop a QR code, which is what we're working on, so that as people come through and are curious as to what did this building start out as? And so that information can be uploaded, and as they move through the downtown, they can explore in that way. Weekend transit trolley, expanding those transit opportunities. Mayor Gameros is our representative on the Regional Transportation Board, so that might be something that Mayor could take back to the group and discuss. Housing, again, our biggest challenge, but also our biggest opportunity. Other communities have looked into expanding those opportunities and have created an investment fund with various stakeholders and grant funding. So that's an opportunity we're researching currently. Annexation, more rooftops. We talked about that during the community survey and how that can impact the community. Bringing our population up to 10,000, that's a trigger point to increase state shared revenues. The Michelson Building and co-working space, in fact, we just received a call today from the contractor who was selected to do the interior demolition. I believe that's happening on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. So you'll see that happening. The sidewalk will be, yes, sir.
Ask a question about the
Sure.
Michelson building. Are there skylights in there?
Yes,
Okay,
there
keep
are.
walking by and see, did they move someplace?
No, they're not holes in the new roof. Those are intentional.
That was the old roof.
And of course, child care opportunities and early youth program. As Carolyn had stated in her presentation, these are much needed amenities and services that are challenges for our work, or our industries, and of course our workforce. Quality of life and recreational development. We're looking to expanding our community center pool programming, not just for the youth, but for our older residents. Our water aerobics last year was extremely well attended. In fact, it went almost to the end of the swim season when it was pretty darn cold. We're looking to do a First Friday fresh up, and we are working with some of our bed tax organizations to better partner and to infuse First Friday with some new features. So more to come on that as we move forward. Part of that would be to coordinate with the CV Center for the Arts, the Chamber, and other downtown partners so that these things just can happen organically. As we talked about, special events is a huge it's a huge undertaking, and so if we can do it smarter, let's do so. Vince already had us covered, the adult exercise equipment and the water bottle filling stations, which were put in at the library at the end of Broad Street, across from Ranchito, and City Hall. How can we forget City Hall? And they're fantastic. So please try it on your way out. Parks and Recreation Director, this has been on our to-do list from the very beginning, and especially now that we have an amazing community center pool facility and more parks to come. This is something that we're needing to take those first steps and move in that direction and bring back the department and those activities that come with that. John and I sat down 3 years ago and we can call it a parks improvements plan, long range plan. Basically, it was a list of what needs to be fixed, what needs to be replaced, what improvements do we all want. And so taking a look at that and approaching it in an incremental approach, that's really the elephant analogy, or metaphor. It's the only way that we can tackle it. And the Silver King planning area. So that funding is on not permanent pause, but it's on pause right now, but that is to come so that we can demolition that building and move forward with a parking area and a pocket park. And of course, the library expansion planning. If we always have to be planning. If we don't plan, it's not going to happen. And our library committee, our friends of the library are fantastic champions for our awesome library. And so putting it on the list holds us all accountable. Infrastructure and public works. We've all talked about the improving our historic downtown lighting. We even tried to do it ourselves. We purchased some cafe lighting thinking, oh, we can hang it from the APS light poles. And then we asked permission and we're told no, because they're not rated for safety. They couldn't support the weight of the strands. So we're having to take a look at other ways that we can expand lighting in downtown and come at it in that direction. Broadband, fiber, of course, downtown Wi-Fi, downtown parking. Having parking shortage, that's a great problem to have. That means you have activity in your downtown. So that's always been on the list, and how to better approach that with the Safe Streets grant that we have coming up with the community facilitation that will be done. This is something that can be added to that scope of work. Of course, the Northeast Corridor Waterline project, that's moving forward. That was an exciting project to see happening. Our floodplain and zone study. So this is something that the county has done in some areas, and actually private development has taken on this. The hospital clinic actually did a remap of not just the area where the new clinic is going to go, but an extension almost all the way down to the DMV and almost up to the Oyo. So that will help bring additional development in that area. Garbage collection. This has been on the list. Councilman Rios, during his interview, is always he's wanting to plan for the day that maybe these vendors aren't going to answer our calls, and we may need to bring back a City of Globe garbage collection. So that's why that one is on the list. I know, surprise, management by surprise. Surprise the manager.
That's interesting.
Right, but it's a concern that he has, and so that was put on the list. The Northeast Corridor sewer expansion, that is a possible 595 Army Corps project. Again, the Safe Streets Initiative, the sidewalks improvement project. Almost last, decreased water loss through infrastructure improvement projects, which is happening incrementally. And a fleet replacement plan, which will be echoed in the public safety slide. And again, please stop me if you have any comments or questions. Public safety, a city emergency plan. Councilman Gonzalez and Mayor Damaros have pointed to this as something much needed. We will be bringing that back to a work group for discussion. Right now we're looking at the funding options to move that forward. Again, the same situation with the new fire station. We absolutely hear our council and our community. A fire station and a ladder truck are actually one in one as far as our priorities go when we're looking for funding. Community involvement in PR, that's been something that came back through a previous community survey and council wanting to see our public safety agencies more involved in the public. Fire has been a consistent participant in First Fridays, and with our Fire Marshal Tom Murtha hosted and of course the fire department hosted a really cool burn event, and we are seeking funding to restart the CO2 and fire alarm giveaway program at the department. And the police department has also been a consistent participant in First Friday. Both agencies regularly show up at community events, so I think that's something that we can proudly check off the list. And both FD and PD, of course, are concerned about retention and recruitment. Again, that's an organizational challenge / opportunity that we continue to work on. And again, here's that echo is the fleet replacement plan. And financial sustainability. How are we going to make this all happen and stay afloat? Recently, we had the city fee update done. That will be coming back to council for final approval on April 22nd. We working on an organizational staff retention and development plan within each department, both the public safety, public works, finance. So this is, we see some good things coming in these areas. Review of the bed tax capacity building plan. We did talk about that with the 3 council members who were on the bed tax committee, and we'll be bringing that back with more detail. How can we help our organizations benefit from the tourism marketing that we are investing in, and the capacity building that the City of Globe and City of Globe staff has received over the last 5 to 7 years. These are all tools that we can share with our partners. And the wastewater fee and capacity study. Do you want to talk about that one, Paul? Touch upon it at all?
The wastewater fees, those are completed and will going into effect on May 1.
Thank you. All right.
Most of that slide's gonna happen on April 22nd.
It will.
Yes.
So that can be a big check off.
Yeah, now I know what he's doing, okay.
So, all right, get you out of here before 9 o'clock. Any comments or questions?
The only one I didn't see was McCormick Tunnel on our SAP, is that, did we bring, put that?
These were some of the new items, but
Oh, new item,
absolutely.
okay.
Yes, McCormick Tunnel, that's a
Huge one.
huge one. And we did receive good news when we were in DC for our trip, and so we really think that can be completed, again, that box checked off in 5 to 7 years.
Any other questions or comments?
Let's see, how was it agendized? So does council need to adopt this, I think?
Yes, we're asking council.
Motion in a second.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2025 strategic plan. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Second?
Motion second for approval of the 2025 Strategic Action Plan. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much.
Linda, thank you. Great job on the whole process.
Any late agenda items? We have none. Community call to the public, second.
No, nothing in the email.
Nothing on phone, no?
And no one charging the podium.
Stay tuned.
Leaving. Scheduling of meetings, anything?
Hopefully thank you all for being here today and see you all on April 22nd. But, we have the work group internals coming up. And I don't want to go through those dates because I'll probably muck them up. It's so late, but, if you have any question about where you're supposed to be when, check with Shelley.
Okay. Can we get the date and time on that Firewise presentation? I know it's gonna be at the.
That'll be April 22nd.
April, no, I mean the one that they're doing at the Recreation Center.
Oh,
Aren't they doing a planning meeting?
That's a David thing.
You don't, no?
Well, it's a Gary thing, I think.
Or Linda, do you know anything about that? Yeah, cause there's supposed to be a presentation on how to, before the presentation at our council meeting, I think.
Oh, okay.
They're having a planning meeting on the Firewise.
I know the APS coming in for a meeting about 4:30 to meet with us. And, I know we have P and Z on April 16th.
That's the 22nd.
Oh, yeah, well,
Are we having an infrastructure meeting Thursday?
is it this Thursday?
It's tentatively set for April 17th, so it's next Thursday.
And then we have a budget group. What day is that?
That's coming up. Next week,
Yeah, that's, I think, the 19th or something. Shelley's been working so hard to try to get these coordinated.
No, I had the date on that, but I can't remember it now, but if we post it, yeah, if we can find it and post it, we'll post that.
Okay.
Future agenda items, any?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a suggestion that, because I've had a lot of constituents contact me about what the name of the new bridge is.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
Connie.
And just a little bit of background is on all the documentations, it's identified as Reese Canyon Bridge.
Oh.
Okay? It became Connie's Bridge when Connie's was built, and now it's Upper Pinal Creek Bridge. So I would suggest maybe we have a name the bridge contest, or
I would caution you on those contests because,
Well,
yeah.
or discuss naming that bridge.
What I would suggest is we can have it, we can add on the 22nd, because we got a little room left, a discussion of the process. I would say that you wanna get it down to 3 names and then maybe take those public, and do that, although you could ask for suggestions, and then council has a meeting, we pick 3, put those, Linda, can we do some type of a community poll about the top 3 names and?
The official name is Upper Pinal Creek, right?
Yeah.
That's the official name.
Well, on the original documents, it's Reese Canyon Bridge.
I don't
And
think,
that's what the engineer from Meridian,
Really?
I would think no one knows that it as the upper, it's known as Connie's, it probably always will be, but we, you know. John, any thoughts?
I just wanted on record that we're discussing it because.
For information, I have always held out for Canal Creek Bridge only for through the ADOT inspections. I've never seen the other documents that have any other name, other than
name it
the
a
local
little
property.
Is there a lower Pinell Street Bridge? Pinell Creek Bridge?
Yeah.
Okay,
It just kinda goes in series.
Okay. yeah, so,
Okay.
so, I think what I'll, I mean, this is, we got a little bit of room to plan. Would council like to see a public process on this? Or would you like to just get together? What's that?
A contest?
No, a suggestion thing.
Why not?
Put it on the agenda as an agenda item for discussion,
Yeah,
and list the three or four names, whatever's out there. Let them have at it.
all right, we can do that. No, I know we need to do this, so. You know. That's, any other future agenda items?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Aye.